and welcome back to
Welcome to the
Wanderful,
Punk
somewhat
Rock
D&D
podcast.
It is.
We got our fingers up like this all the time because we're punk and we don't care that we're the only ones left. Fuck yeah.
It is the summer of
Establishment.
Wanderful. If you haven't heard, this summer is the summer of content. And I am your typical DM, Tyler DeSoto, and I'm joined by my three good boys, Kyle, Matt, and Jeremy. Say hello, my three good boys, Kyle, Matt, and Jeremy.
Evanescence is the best.
Wake me up.
Wake me up inside.
Can't wake up.
I can't wake up.
Call Me When You're Sober is a better song. Look, this summer, we're taking a little break, as you know, from our normal story. We're just doing a bunch of nonsense. We're doing some one-off stories. We're doing some talking. We're just chatting. We're answering some questions today. This is another episode of our beloved series, Tavern Talks, beloved by me.
Because it takes no prep. It's just us fucking around.
Yeah, so
no one
in the
has
past,
to prepare anything.
Yeah. In the past, our Tavern Talks have been about the stories we've been doing. So we did one about where we were up to that point in Wanderful. And then just a couple weeks ago, aka minutes ago, we recorded a Tavern Talks talking about the world building game that we did, which we didn't even name. I feel like such an idiot.
No, I did name it. Wait.
Yeah,
No. I'm saying we didn't shout out.
Pipkin. Yeah.
We didn't shout out Jeremy
Everest Pipkin. Shout out to
Everest
him
Pipkin.
for the ground itself again. We didn't talk about that in that episode.
We did in the episode, but not in the Tavern Talks.
Yeah. But again, that dude.
Yes.
And that's something that I because this isn't dealing with that. Like, if you guys want us to play games that aren't D&D, tell us.
Oh yeah,
because I'm down to play more shit like that. Like, even if we just do an episode where we build a world and that's the end of the game.
That's it.
That would hurt me. That would hurt me emotionally if we were just build a grand world and be like, anyway.
I feel like I've done that. I feel like I've done that a ton of times with HeroScape. Like, you build like just the most amazing map ever, and then no one wants to play after you're done.
Do you remember our fucking during the height of the pandemic? Covering the house in Bionicles.
Yes, yeah.
Oh my god, that's all I did during the early part of the pandemic. Not to get into pandemic talk, like that's like relevant right now, but like I spent my fucking stimulus check on a bidet, a Switch, a lot of weed, and Bionicles.
Don't forget the bidet. Yeah.
That's the dream setup right there.
It was wonderful. It was so
a good bidet.
So Matt would just come home from work and be like, well, this was probably during when you didn't have work. You would just wake up and I would still be awake. I would still be awake though.
Just shitting.
As you're getting up for work.
Just spraying a hose at his asshole.
Blasting my ass with a bidet, building Bionicles, and hanging them from the fucking various ornaments in the house.
Oh.
Gross.
But we're if you can't tell by the vibe already, we're just chatting in this one. We're not talking about anything specific. We're just gonna. I do have a few questions if we want to get to them, but we're just hanging out. I will start us with one though, something I'm curious about because I know what I do, but I wanted this. We're gonna kind of go for a little bit of a classic Sad High Five style. Get to let you know us.
Hey.
I haven't heard that name in years.
Sad High Five was the name of Kyle and I's old podcast that we used to do, which I probably have those files somewhere. I could probably upload them at some point.
Put in a random clip from one of those episodes here.
Maybe when we have a Patreon, we'll release those for the fans.
But what I love is if we're I'm going in with more confidence when this podcast takes off, because obviously
exactly.
That will mean that me and Matt were the sugary spice that you needed in the mix.
Yeah, to get our shows off the We needed two more white guys on this podcast.
The ratio was not.
Just what the world needs. Two more white guys.
I'm a special guy.
What is that? Not the way you
did we try to record for Sad High Five? Did we try to record
I don't know.
We did record. We did a couple like one-off stories. We also did record an episode with Matt. I don't think we
Did
ever
we do
released
a
it.
I don't think we
D&D
released that. I just ran into the notes on that
I
one the
remember
other day.
like talking to my friend, my good longtime friends.
I
And
feel like
hey,
I definitely
what are you guys
remember us
this
doing a
weekend?
D&D
Oh,
thing
nothing,
that
we're
didn't
not
go
gonna-
well. Okay.
Wait, did we? No, you guys did. Yeah.
No, we didn't.
No, yeah, it was I remember a door puzzle being the bane of my existence.
Dude,
I do
I
remember
forgot
that.
about that.
That's
do
literally
remember
what I
that.
was just
Because
saying.
it was the ring in a bull's nose was a door knocker, and you could not get me to understand that.
I was like, have you never seen a door? Some of them have knockers instead of knobs.
Okay, I'm going to go find this old audio
And put it
because
in. You got to.
our listeners need to hear this because
I couldn't
you got
understand what was
so
happening.
mad at me.
I
I was
didn't know
losing
what was
my
happening.
mind. I was like, I don't know how to make this any more clear. These golden fixtures attached to a door. You don't see any other way to get through the door. Then you pull the
look.
ring out of the lion's mouth and you guys got attacked by a lion.
Oh yeah. I will say one of the most in my experience as a DM and just player of 5e and like other RPG like tabletop games like this, the funniest thing is that you will get like smart people and you will give them a puzzle designed for a fucking elementary school student, and that will be the next 2 hours of the game.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do not need complicated puzzles in D&D. I have never ever
Made
had
an overly
issue
complicated
where
puzzle. Me either.
The puzzle got solved too quickly. That has never, no matter
Never
how
been
simple,
said. Never been said.
you could literally just make like literally a puzzle that is like the shapes going in the holes, and it would be an hour. It would be an hour because the rogue would check every hole for traps and gems, and then try to determine the worth of the fucking shapes to see if they're magical or if they should sell them.
Would you say that's attributed to our Louisiana education?
No. This is universal. No. It's not like.
But it doesn't help.
No, it doesn't help.
No.
It doesn't help. My wife constantly talks about, she's like, I don't understand how someone as well educated as you and your family cannot speak English so terribly. Like, how are you this bad at English?
It's hard to talk good.
Yeah.
Like, none of us pronounce things right or any of that. And she's just like, I don't understand.
And people
how
use
that's possible.
other words in the South for different meanings. Like you'll use an entire word that does not mean that thing.
Yeah.
But you know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
My dad literally got TikTok famous off of that exact concept.
Yeah, because like it's like you gotta know to know. Like I not to be that guy. There's no gatekeeping here. It's just like you gotta grow up around people who don't know how to know how to talk to people who don't know how to talk.
Yeah.
This is true.
So the question I did want to start out with, just to get us talking, to get us chatting.
I'm feeling
as far as D&D goes, do y'all have a typical or preferred like build of a character, like race, class? Like I tend to, and the smaller number of games I've played, I tend to go with like a more of a rogue, sneaky kind of class rather than like a tank or like a fighter. Like I'm just curious if you guys have like typical.
Yeah, I think everybody's gonna have a different answer to this because
I think me and you have the most experience when it comes to
in terms of playing again. I think I just at this point now I go down the list of what I haven't played when I'm playing a character. Like my preferred play style is either gonna be like if I don't want to think, I'm playing a fighter. I'm so sorry. If I don't want to have to do any sort of other overcomplicated shit, I'm gonna play a fighter. I love fighters for that because you can be so versatile in the way you play that character. And just because like so my most recent favorite character I played a ranger, but I did not use a bow. I used a spear and javelins. Like that was my whole character shtick and everything. And like I was a close combat ranger, which is like not something you hear of. He was like very much so built to beat the shit out of you. Like I don't know, whenever I play a class, it's not like I have one set in mind. I think I like warlocks, sure, because it's like ooh, spooky, like otherworldly patron and stuff like that. But like I don't think I have a set thing anymore because of how long I've played. I think it's just like, how can I break this class and make it not how they're supposed to be played?
Basically with the tabletop now, I just kind of have a list of dumb character concepts I've come up with where it's basically just like buzzwords. And then like anytime I'm playing a new game, I just like, which one of those do I want to do? And then the other thing is, because I don't know if it's just because of how I am as a person or just because of like how I've always played like fantasy games and stuff, but I have a really bad habit of min-maxing. And min-maxing can be super toxic in RPG, like any kind of like pure operative game. So the way I've kind of tried to be able to have my cake and eat it too, basically, is I build in that obsession with perfection into most of the characters I play, but I just change what perfection is. Like, so they won't be broken necessarily. Like one of the last characters I played was a wizard who was obsessed with teleportation magic. And if you don't know, like a wizard doing teleportation magic, a utility wizard, while it's helpful, is a huge waste of like wizards have some of the strongest like DPS in the game. But like my guy basically had almost no damaging spells. He could teleport around, he could teleport everybody around. But it was a super awesome because he was obsessed with teleportation magic. And so like I was able to min-max without like ruining the game experience for everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's usually, so like that'll be a common thread, but other than that, it's just like dumb buzzwords like cleric that can't heal, a mare that's also skeleton. Like those are like, I just have that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Matt?
Me and Tyler have probably the least amount of D&D experience in the group. But I would say, I usually just go for aesthetics that I think are cool. So like, with my current character for the
Wanderful?
new thing stuff that's coming out,
the new one.
Eldrick. So I kind of have him as a barbarian, obviously not like a stereotypical like, oh, I'm just gonna like hack it, like not hack and slash, like, oh, I'm just gonna like be dumb, like he's kind of a little more like kind of got that hero aspect to him. So he's kind of got a little bit more intelligence than a normal like barbarian, but he's not like, he's not a wizard, I really just go for stuff that I think is cool. I always like a little bit of darkness in a character. I don't know if that has to do with just how I am as a person, or if that's just how I view like society as a whole. But I think everyone has a little bit of like darkness in them. So
you're an edgelord. I get it. You're cool.
That actually does spark another interesting thing that has kind of been alluded to. Obviously to us, but to our listeners, Kyle and Jeremy have a lot more tabletop RPG experience than Matt and I do. For me, I think there's only been like one game or one session even that I've played that didn't involve at least one of you in this group.
Yeah. It's always been like us like playing like a couple of like sessions together. Like I really enjoyed when we were back in Tennessee, we were playing what was the name of the
Monster of the Week? Yeah,
I really enjoyed that a lot, and I'm sad
that wasn't a recorded thing. That was just for us. It was really
us, Logan and Callie.
I love that. I really love that concept too, and I'd love to revisit it if we can.
But so I did want to ask, going off of that, I want to hear about like first experiences with D&D, tabletop RPGs.
Yeah.
I know like Matt, we might share a first experience.
I think we do with the
but we can kind of get, tell other stories than just those. Kyle or Jeremy, one of y'all want to go first?
I went first last time.
Or do you need time to think?
Oh no, I got one in the bag because it's not even a D&D thing. It's like, so my brother and I used to make games all the time based around D&D because he was playing like early D&D, like 2E, 3E and stuff like that with like people and at his high school. But we never had D&D, but we had action figures and we had his dice set that he had for his D&D sessions and stuff. And so we would apply stats like D&D characters to action figures
Yeah.
when we were really young and fucking make up shitty games. And that was kind of like my first foray into like, oh, a character levels up and has a class and has this and that. Like when we would like, he would really try to give me all the details without the books off of his memory, plus like making his own sort of like things with it. And it was very cute to do that with, like, he would be the DM since he's older, and it would be me and my younger cousins playing with action figures as our standing characters. And he would like set up things with our other toys to be like the map and things, and like really play these like fun, interesting things. Or like even us, we would come up with our own games and actually write down things and like draw a character on a piece of paper. And instead of it being the action figure, it would be like, that's the guy. And like we would start our own little makeshift shit. And then like as I got into school, I would play like different games with like friends. Like I would go over to a friend's house who had like Pathfinder, and that was like my first actual tabletop thing. And that was a lot different than D&D, but like some of the same sort of concepts and stuff. And we just like, it was a really fun experience. And from there it was just like the rest is history, you know?
That's really funny because Kyle, now that I'm like remembering, like very early, and I'm sure like most kids have done this, but like, just getting all of your toys together, like doesn't matter like what they are. You could have like the little tiny like plastic ninjas and like army men, and also like intricate like transformers and like Beyblades and
but
stuff.
Like you use them for different prop pieces instead of like everything being a character. Like maybe you have your favorite toy as your character, but like you have this full ass story that you build out. And actually writing shit down, I was playing D&D without playing D&D.
I remember using silly putty a lot, and that was always always get pink silly putty and make it Majin Buu from Dragon Ball Z.
I think that was like my first experience using a slime, because I was playing like JRPG games with my older brother on stuff. So I knew concepts of kind of D&D-esque monsters, but I literally used putty, and we were playing as Batman, and he was being attacked by a slime, and we had like a full battle, and the slime ate him. And we made a stop motion video on a camcorder of Batman being eaten by the slime when he lost the fight. It was so cool.
That's so good.
I made so many stop motion videos on like my first flip phone and different camcorders growing up.
Dude, everybody did the little book of the stick figure shooting a Kamehameha across the thing.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Like, I feel like it's just like, you kind of come into the idea of it, and I think that's probably where D&D fucking was inspired. They were just being dickheads in the woods with toys or something, or like sticks, and being like, I'm a level 5 wizard, and I will hit you with this move.
You heard it here first. LARPing was first.
Yeah, 100%. Because we were LARPing with action figures. Like, absolutely.
Yeah, I really enjoy it because it's made me kind of get more into that imaginative state of like of childhood, and like you know, as you get older, like you have to start paying bills and stuff, which really sucks. Man. And like it's nice to like go back to those like origins.
Matt, do you want to go next? Split up the two experienced ones.
Yeah, sure. So kind of like, you know, it's very similar to beginnings to Kyle, like we just talked about. But I want to say, Tyler, me and you had the same first experience, and that was the Star Wars RPG, which was so fun. I only played like 2 sessions.
I think I only played 1 session.
The only thing I remember is I was playing a Jedi Padawan who I was trying to make him basically into like a bounty hunter, but like the way the rules were, that was like very not a thing. Like you couldn't do that without being like full blown evil. Even though you're not an evil character, it's like kind of go back into those alignments and stuff we were talking about last episode, but. I just remember like I was almost like better than my master in a sense, because like he was like trying to say like, oh, you forgot your like lightsaber, and I was like, are you sure you didn't lose your lightsaber? And he like looks down, he's like, oh shit, I lost my lightsaber. Oh my god, that was so good.
Silly beats like that, man. I love stuff like that. We also played similar DM. Another tabletop together that was a
Tavern
fun
Tales.
experience called Tavern Tales. Yeah, I couldn't
that's
remember
what I was going to talk about.
Okay,
but,
good. Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah, coming off of that, that Star Wars one was definitely my first one as well. I played an Ewok named Tebow, but I think I only played 1 session of that. The first time I played multiple sessions with the same character, same story, which we already talked about in our first Tavern Talks episode, yikes. All four of us, and was it just us four?
I didn't play.
Or did we have? Oh, Matt, you didn't play that?
No, Matt wasn't,
No.
and Richie was, I think.
Yeah, we were up at Tech at that point, so.
Anyway, but my first time playing multiple sessions with the same characters and the same running story, I don't even remember what my character was. I think I was, what's the cat race?
Oh, you were one of the cats from Monster Hunter, I think.
Well, I think that was an inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
But
Were you
anyway,
Ajit?
but I was playing that kind of rogue character. Oh yeah, because it's not a D&D game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because I don't think any
Tales.
of us had like a specific
Yeah.
race. Because I was
Yeah.
just a little blue mage child.
Yeah,
with
Jeremy was like a
Manticore.
Warforged kind of
Mhm.
thing. But that was a lot of fun, and that was also my first experience DMing, which was whatever because of He Who Shall Not Be Named. But he did a few of our sessions where each of us DM'd a short session within whatever. If you remember that,
I
was
don't
my
even
first
remember
time.
what my session was.
No, I enjoyed that. I actually thought that system was pretty good, where it was just like kind of a rotation.
It's
of-
updated a lot since, and I don't think it's good.
I don't
Oh,
like the new
whenever we
Tavern
played it,
Tales
it was
either.
like in the very beta version.
Yes. Because that
I
was
actually-
like kind of
yeah.
going back to me and my brother. Like that, we used to just get random games and just play different games. Like my brother would hear about a game and just buy this fucking game. You remember what was the name of the Galactic Wrestling Federation thing that we played
I
with?
can never remember with Endgame.
Endgame, yes.
I don't remember.
God, if I can get my mom to send me pictures, I'm pretty sure we still have all the pieces to that game.
Yeah. And just to clarify, I'm sure there are plenty of people who like new Tavern Tales. We played it, and originally it was very loose rules with like vague concept powers that you picked. Now it's much more like a proper rigid system.
Yeah.
It's more similar to
Which is
D&D.
probably better
Which-
now, but
It's definitely less exploitable, but I really liked the very loose rule.
well, I think
We
that's
could
why
find-
we played that one specifically
Yes,
was
it
because
was.
it was very loose.
Well, because we were all
And nobody
new
had
and,
to
like,
learn D&D stuff and everything. Yeah.
I'm assuming you guys actually know this, but my first time was actually that Star Wars game as well.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yes, that was my first time ever, and I basically fell in love with tabletop. And as soon as we stopped playing, I went and found other people to play like stuff with. Basically, like I have been off and on playing. Like whenever I was in college, after everyone abandoned me, I ran a game for like a year and a half.
I actually remember
I
that.
actually ran like two.
I
or
remember
three
you
games
talking to me
over the
about
course
that
of a year
too.
and a half. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I actually, it's kind of funny at this point. I'm pretty sure I have more experience as DM than I do as an actual player.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say.
Well, that's definitely true for me at this point because I've done like 15, almost 20 sessions as a DM now.
I would say I'd have the least DM experience out of people with I've DM'd the Monster of the Week thing for a couple weeks, and I DM'd a D&D thing that only lasted for like 3 days. And now I'm about to do
I
my
have
first.
zero DM experience, so
Yeah.
We're gonna have to get
we're
a
gonna keep it that
way.
Matt. We're gonna have to get
Stay
a
on the
Matt
ground.
Story Bazaar episode.
I can't wait. I'm excited. Even if you
I do. Now that I have more time, I do want to start writing stuff. I'm currently trying to catch up for school,
I also-
but like,
Yeah, no pressure.
Also, there's like a resource that I have that had a bunch of different world building games that are like pretty cheap that you can buy on. I think it's like itch.io or something like that. Like one of those like online like hubs where like people just upload their own pre-made PDFs and games and stuff. If you and DiCelli just made a world and you're like, okay, this is the world, and now I'm going to start writing a story based around whatever tabletop you wanted to, you could fucking do something like that.
Yeah, and obviously I can help with anything if you need. Like just like yesterday, Kyle texted me asking for help, which felt funny because of how little experience I have with this kind of thing. That I could answer any question, but then I have to keep in mind like I've DM'd like 20 sessions
Well, not
of
even
a
just
story
that,
that I
like-
have written. It's like I actually have a little bit of experience at this point.
And
It
you
feels
have, like-
weird to say.
And you have like really good like writing and storytelling experience
Yeah.
outside of D&D.
I
and
think
so
that's
like
one of the most important.
when it
things.
comes to like the finer points of like telling the
Yeah.
story and getting across what I want, I can ask you for that and not spoil
Yeah.
like I'm writing something for your guy. Tell me how to do it. Like it's never like
Yeah. Yeah,
And
for our
then the bug
listeners,
boy falls
I'm a
down.
little bit of a writer. It's like I frequent the Starbucks.
brag.
I frequent the
Humble.
Starbucks and take a table up for 3 hours, and
I put all
I
of my
read my
personal
screenplay out loud, waiting for a producer to notice me.
I put all my personal belongings on this entire 2-person table area.
I've got an old-fashioned like 1930s typewriter. Just
I drag it around. It's 50
Something
pounds.
I wish I had a
Yeah.
1930s typewriter.
It's at least 50 pounds and very loud when I use it in public spaces.
I read big books in
I love all
public.
of that.
I read
books that-
Dilbert. I don't read Dilbert.
I know. What's
I
eating
understand
Gilbert
Dilbert.
Man.
But yeah. What's the next? You got any more questions for us, Big Dan?
I do have more questions.
Ooh, what you got?
Let's see. So if you don't have anything, that's fine. But I want to hear, do you guys have any pet peeves, whether it be through games you've played, games you've watched? Like, I know we watch, like, y'all watch Critical Role. I listen to Adventure Zone, not another D&D podcast. Like, or not, yeah, some of those things. I'm curious, do y'all have any pet peeves when it comes to something DMs do, players do, just anything that really bothers you, or, like, you know, that kind of thing?
I don't like we kind of touched on it in the last thing, but I really don't like rigid, like, alignment or like rule systems that like make your character have to do this because that's the character you made. Like people who are very like literal about the choices you make in what you're saying about the character. They're like, oh, but you said your character was good and now you're going to steal this? I guess they're bad now. Like, you know, and like there's DMs out there that will fully change your character's alignment because you stole something to help somebody or like did a greater good situation or whatever. I think it's like the world isn't like that. There aren't true altruist people out there, and if there are, they're fucking terrible probably. If they're just, that's their whole mindset is just the righteous are right and the wrong are wrong. There's nothing else, you know, like that's not how life works. And so like
Definitely.
I hate when people are sticklers about that or like sticklers about like
Just
deity worship and things like that within D&D 2 that kind of falls into that. It's like you could, as a person, you're probably not going to be able to game a god into like giving you powers or whatever, but like your character isn't just a mindless zombie, right? Like, you know, if you're playing a warlock, he's not going to just be a thrall to everything. You are going to get into conflicts with this actual deity that wants something from you, and they're not going to outright kill you, like obviously. So you can kind of play into that. Like you can have a dickhead warlock who's like, fuck you. Like, and then the guy's like, I swear to God, I'll reap your soul right now. Do it. I don't care. Like, you know, like I like the idea of this guy who's like, more sure of himself than like just like confined to like the rails of like this idea that a deity's always watching or like he has to be good or bad.
Jeremy?
I have this huge issue where sometimes when we're playing, Matt says anything ever, and I really, if we could
That's
limit
fair.
that would
We
be
just
really
cut
good.
that out.
If you could just
Which
stop
is funny because 90% of the time Matt is not saying anything.
exactly.
And listen, 90% of the time, having tons of fun. Like,
But that
if you just let me like monologue for 20 to 30 minutes, and that was every episode, I'd be really happy.
Look, if I learned anything from Genesis Part 1, The Throne Mountain, it's that Jeremy can monologue and I'll just listen.
Jeremy,
Oh my god, this is not
your lips to Jeremy's ears, you know?
this is not directly
My
related,
nose
but-
to Jeremy's asshole.
I think that brings up a good point though. I know you were joking, but like I like that for the most part, we try to be very aware of giving each other space to role play and space to do shit. So like you joke, but like I don't think we've had that problem too much. Like I feel like the last episode, me and Matt had a really good heart to heart, and like Matt actually was like giving some character fucking deets of like fucking I know we're all not doing good, but I'm really not doing good. Like, you know, and it was like
Look, as a DM and as a podcast host, I feel like if
what
there
podcast
is
you
a
hosting?
good you haven't heard of it.
I
feel like
I'll tell you now.
if there's an extended amount of time where I can feel comfortable just stepping away from the mic and just let you guys go to town, I feel like I'm doing a good job, at least to some degree. Whether it be like in that episode or the episode you're talking about that our listeners haven't heard yet. Like there was a while where I was like, I could step in and keep it moving, but I think this is more entertaining to just let you guys work through some stuff, you know?
and there's still like the tension there of like the characters also being on a time crunch. Like, I like the idea of like, I don't know. I feel like we're very good at role playing in a way that is conducive to the story, that isn't like just, and now we're having an entire bar scene instead of sticking to the mission, you know, like it was enough to be like, we established some stuff. The characters had their little like heart to heart, but also it leaves you wondering how are things going to go from here, you know? Like they just had to break some guy out of prison and stuff. Oh,
really quick before we get too far away from it, I do just want to apologize in general, because I've actually found out from my wife, I just kind of monologue sometimes just as a person who exists. So feel free to cut that shit.
Well, that was my pet peeve.
Is that I monologue all the time?
Yeah, no. But you bring up an interesting point, Kyle, in that I feel like it's kind of hard to like get this across in a way that feels tangible to other people, because like you three, like this is a show that I know that all of you really enjoy doing, and we enjoy our like sessions, our hanging out. I mean, even just hanging out, being in each other's company. I love you guys. But like there is something that's so hard to really get across, and maybe it comes across naturally, I don't know, but like I care very deeply about this story because it is a story that I wrote elsewhere and have turned it into something that I can share with you guys and share with the listeners, and like it's something that's very meaningful to me, and I spend so much of my time thinking about that. That I mean, I am very grateful to share this space with you guys, because like you're saying, like that kind of moment where I'm able to just sit back and it's clear that you guys are really invested in this space is so emotionally fulfilling for me.
100%. And then like it's kind of like what I was talking about in the little world building Tavern Talks we just did too. Like the characters inform the story that is being told because they're living the experience, right? Like, and so like even those small moments of like, I know it's not the main story, but these characters you're invested in, these characters have like motivations and emotions and stuff like that. So like having those small moments to like cut away from the story to tell their story is very interesting and always is compelling to me, because like it's there as integral to the story as the story is to the audience listening, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, Jeremy, your pet peeve.
Oh yeah, I actually have to give a real one. So this is actually something I don't like. Sometimes both players and DMs will kind of do this thing where like they will just kind of verbatim just take a thing from some already pre-existing like world or like thing and just like take it and like just
and slap it.
Yeah, I really don't like. I can have fun with those kinds of games, but I just think it's, at least for me personally, it feels like such a wasted opportunity.
I'm sorry for putting Blockbuster in our world, Jeremy.
I'm so annoyed about it. Like it's just.
Yeah,
like,
I know what you mean.
Let the company die, Tyler.
Yeah.
They're getting free ad revenue from us, and for what?
Let that corpse rest. Stop kicking it. It just...
You're beating the dead horse, and more dead horses are coming out of it.
Well, yeah, those kinds of games can absolutely be fun. I just personally always view it as like kind of a wasted opportunity of just like
and that's
not adding your own spice.
It's so hard to not get into like the opposite of that, though, if I could like jump in, of like you want to have a unique experience in your own things, but then you're just caught in describing every detail of every plant and animal and thing. Because like for us, when we built out the world thing, I introduced a whole creature that doesn't exist in the world that's like a means of transportation, and like I also have to introduce the fact that there are regular D&D ass monsters in here, but kind of justify this thing without making it like he's cool and he got sunglasses and he's a good guy and he does all the things you want him to do and he can talk to you. And
I think what you're describing is writing.
What he's describing, and it's bad, is what I like to call the first chapter of the Scarlet Letter.
Oh, God. Goodness.
Because if you can remember, if you guys also had to read that book in high school, which I'm assuming you did because we all went to the same high school.
Yeah, I just really feel bad for
First
Abigail.
fucking
The kid goes to the
chapter
bathroom
of
and he's
that
like, "What's that in the toilet?" And he picks up a letter A and it's covered in blood.
God, I'm still very angry about that. But the first chapter is just about a fucking rose bush, and like it has nothing to do with anything. And you can be like, oh, it's metaphorical. And it's like, okay, I can understand like a paragraph metaphor. The first chapter,
that's it, man.
decent percentage of this fucking book is about a bush, and then it's like, anyway,
And
in
then the
town,
rest of it's also about a bush. Am I right, fella?
Yeah.
Oh God.
You've been listening to Weenie in the Butt.
You've been listening to what was the radio thing yesterday? Wolf and the Dog.
don't spend a chapter talking about a bush.
Dog.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like just wasting time. There's been a few times when I've gone through to edit episodes where I've been like, I can't believe I let this go on for so long. Like I feel bad that I caused the Mimic's room to go on for so
I
long.
don't know
yeah.
how you
Look,
didn't.
That's
think-
another thing.
Look, you put
I
a
will
bunch
say,
of completionists
It's
in a
just
room.
something I couldn't have. Yeah,
there's but that's like not to your credit or
didn't-
anything. Like it's hard to make D&D battles anything but dog shit boring in the audio medium. I'm so sorry. I like fighting in D&D when I play the actual game when it's not being recorded. When it's being recorded, it makes me want to die.
Yeah.
It's like, because like unless you're doing some extra flavor or like really like giving a handicap to the enemy so they die faster, like you can't get attention in there because it's just like okay, that was 17 and that's 17 lightning damage plus 2. And is he dead yet? No. Okay, it's my turn.
I want our listeners to know we are aware. Like it is, we are not like we are aware when this is
Not
like
good podcast.
dragging on or not good podcasting. There's just, if it's bad enough, I will stop it. But there are certain situations where it's like, well, we're here and we have to find our way out of this. Like the Mimic Room, there wasn't a good way for me to be like, you know what, fuck this. We're just ignoring the rest of the Mimic Room. You know,
Until we
like
fucking
I
remembered
realized
that I had a bucket of gasoline and that solved so much.
I realized like 15, 20 minutes in, like, holy shit, we've got to move on. And it became clear when we were like, okay, we gotta let's get this moving.
Right.
And then Jeremy, you had the great idea.
Yeah.
And then at the end, we didn't even fight the last few mimics. We were like, okay, we're moving on.
Yeah. Speaking of because it was something I wanted to talk to y'all about, and we might just do it as like a what are we calling them? The
Story Bazaar.
story bazaars. I've kind of stole this from TikTok, and there's another way of doing combat. I kind of took the idea and modified it a little bit. I'd love to test it out just as one game.
Because I want to
Just
do
to
an
see,
actual
'cause-
fun, silly tournament. One-shot story thing, but
That's
I
not
also
just
don't
D&D
want it to
combat.
be. I don't want it to just be D&D combat. So I was gonna like modify it and dumb it down to where it's like small dice systems and like when you're doing certain things, you have to roll certain dice and things like that. But like if you have a combat system that could be fun and entertaining, I will steal that from you in a heartbeat.
That is one thing I like
absolutely.
about
Well,
a
the thing
game
is,
system that isn't combat based for this kind of medium. Like I thought Monster of the Week was interesting because it's not. It doesn't have those sorts of boring elements that are just inherently kind of boring to listen to.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of it is also you as the player building out the story you're trying to tell with the bones that like the person lays down as like the dungeon master, but like you kind of inform things based on your experiences. So like what you're investigating, what you're doing. I do also like the way they did that because I did play some combat stuff with you guys, but I was able to tie it into the story in a way that wasn't like, it didn't drag on, like, you know.
Well, I definitely, one of the things I'm hoping the kind of approach that I had, or hopefully whenever we test it out, it works the way. Hopefully it will speed things up and make it to where there's a lot more in like character to character interaction during fights, like goblins working together instead of like just one goblin shoots an arrow, another goblin stabs you.
Yeah.
Right. I also
And more
it
like two
too
goblins
when-
approach with a rope and like tie you.
I don't want it to seem like I hate combat in D&D at all, because like
Yeah.
there's like when you finally kill the enemy and I'm able to describe it or describe with you in the way that like how do you want to do this, for lack of like an actual thing, like stealing from Critical Role here, but like it's such a good question to ask. It's like describe to me how you fuck this thing up that is this time vampire that we've just faced.
Well, see, that's the biggest thing, and I think that's the biggest thing, and I'd love if we could figure out a way, or if anyone could figure out a way to address it, is that like combat is long, and because it's long, it actually makes it longer, because like half the time, like by the time it gets to your turn, you have fully zoned out,
And that's the thing too,
it's
even
not
with
entertaining to listen to. And I attacked for the 4th time as a fighter with my longsword.
even with like the way we've been doing combat, Tyler kind of plays fast and loose with like distance and height and stuff, and not in a bad way that's like bad to the story, but like if he thinks like visually in his mind's eye, you're not close enough to do that to that guy, that works. But like he's not going to be like, you have to get exactly 120 feet to this area in order to, you know, like, and actually sitting, pulling a ruler out and shit. Like, he can infer by our actions, okay, they've gotten a little closer by doing this, or like they said they run up and do this thing, so like don't have to deal with the math. Go ahead and do
rules as
it.
intended rather than rules as written.
Yes. And that's the thing I think we talked about this a little bit in the last, or was it the last episode? I'm so confused because we recorded both of these so close to one another. But like the idea of rules police in D&D, you see that with a lot of people.
I think that's my biggest pet peeve.
That's my biggest pet peeve as well. Just let people have fun. I get it that like some people like that style of play.
There's certain elements that should be strict and rigid.
Definitely.
Far as like feats and like, you know, attacks and spells and stuff like that. But there's certain things like well, I guess it depends on how you play. Like with us, we're more of like a story-based format, so it doesn't really make sense for us to have like a actual like map of combat and like, all right, I'm gonna dash 30 feet or I'm gonna use my 30 feet of movement and that was my turn. You know, like
I just want to tease to you guys without I'm not taking questions because I don't want to potentially give away. I don't want to potentially give away with facial expressions anything. So don't ask questions.
Okay.
One of you.
Our mom is a lich.
One of you has accidentally somehow, like it when I was editing, I was like, how did I not notice this in the moment? I had to go to Callie and be like, one of them just predicted a major story event.
Oh my god, no way.
What the fuck? What episode?
Shit.
I'm not accepting questions. I'm not going to tell you what episode. I'm not going to tell you who said it. I'm not going to tell you what it relates to. But while I was editing, I had to stop editing, go find Callie in her house and be like, this person just spoiled this. Like, they somehow, no idea how.
And what's great is it was almost certainly a stupid offhand joke.
It felt like, for our listeners who will get this reference, I know Kyle will, and Matt will, it felt like in Steven Universe when Ronaldo's like, the gyms are harvesting humans and the diamonds. Literally, it felt like that in my head, but it was one of you guys and not me.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I'm so stressed that I now have to go.
So all of our listeners can go back and listen through episodes and try to find what the spoiler was. But it'll be a good year before you find out.
I'm so jealous.
It's a posted episode?
No, not necessarily. Just our listeners will have to listen.
I appreciate you sneaking in some questions after he explicitly said he wasn't answering them. I respect it.
Yeah. I was trying to sneak one out. He forgot.
But our listeners can go through our episodes and try to find the potential spoiler that won't be revealed for, like, a year.
I'm so upset.
Well,
this news.
This has been Wanderful, Somewhat D&D podcast, Tavern Talks. Thanks for joining us. Like we said in the last one, if you have questions you want to ask us,
I've got
that
questions.
don't relate.
I've got several questions.
Yeah, no,
it.
that don't relate to that.
Yeah, does that
you can
apply
ask
to-
you can ask those guys what they think the spoiler
But
is.
yeah,
That's
let me
fine,
know,
but,
and
you know,
let me know which one of us you think offhandedly
Yeah.
said it, because I feel like it's got to be either Jeremy or me.
Probably.
you know what? Send in your
We'll do a
predictions
poll.
for what it was. We'll do a poll and talk about it on our next Tavern Talks.
Oh my god!
But like we said, send in questions. Let us know what you think about that. If you have stuff you want us to talk about, stuff you want us to do this summer in the summer of Wanderful.
Game suggestions,
Yeah,
like any kind of
send us all
one-off
that stuff
adventures you
in.
got.
Is this
Yeah.
a lost thing where is this purgatory the whole time?
The Tavern
be
Talk
anno-
episodes.
I'm gonna be annoyed if it's purgatory the whole time.
If
Oh my
if
God.
I did that, I would hope you would remove my writer's card.
I would.
Like I am not allowed to call myself a writer anymore. Like
Why did the statue have 4 toes? It doesn't make any sense. Can we just talk about
Goodbye,
Lost?
everybody.
All right.
no, you guys are gonna come across the statue of you guys are gonna
Goodbye,
come across the
everybody.
Statue of Liberty on the beach.
You blew it up. You blew it up. Damn you.
All right, bye.
Goodbye. Jesus.